All right. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Space and Missile Defense Symposium, day number 1. This is our afternoon session. We've done quite a bit today, but we're super excited to have Greg Semrau of Moog Engineering. Did I pronounce that right?
You got that right.
Fantastic. These are some interesting names, so I'm going to have to make sure I remember them. But super glad to have you on the podcast. Would love for you to provide an introduction of who you are and a little bit about Moog.
Sure. So my name's Greg Semrau. I'm the technical director for our space division. So Moog as a company, we're essentially founded on the great invention of a servo valve or motion control systems. So the whole idea is you can take big things and move them precisely, and you can apply that to a lot of different things. The easiest thing to point to is the backside of like a commercial airplane. The wing moves up and down. And so we make all of those systems. You can apply it to a missile, you can apply it to spacecraft, you can apply it to industrial machinery. But in general, that's our core competency is motion control for very niche systems. So it fits real well to the aerospace and defense market.
Yeah, it does. This is something that I'm not super familiar with, so I'm looking forward to the conversation. I love planes, so that makes sense, the way you explained it. Is Moog... I'm going to make sure I'm saying it right. Moog,
oh, you got it.
Are you guys locally here in Huntsville, or where's headquarters for you?
So headquarters is outside of Buffalo, New York. We have sites here in Huntsville and probably about 10 other cities in America and occupy about 20 other countries across the globe.
Wow, so you guys are pretty large and been in business for quite a while, right?
Yeah, since 1951. So this is our 75th anniversary this year.
Well, congratulations. That's a tremendous feat. Being in business for 75 years. Tech Masters, the company I work for, we've been in for 38 years, so we're a little bit behind you.
Oh, that's all good.
But the technology that you guys have developed, I guess at the start, back in the 50s, of course you guys have iterated, I'm sure, on all those technologies. Regarding from the defense sector, where's your focus now? Where has it been? Where is it now? And where are you guys looking forward to help the warfighter, especially from a space and missile defense aspect?
Gotcha. So I think Moog, traditionally, we were always like a hydraulic company. You look at Moog, we sell valves. It made sense. So over the course of probably about the last 30 years, we started to mature like electric motors in the application within the aerospace and defense world. So we grew up from essentially selling just valves to now we're selling actuators. So simply put, you can move something linearly or rotary, and all of a sudden, you can start to provide thrust vector control to rockets. You can do steering systems for missiles. And all of a sudden, we started to take that value proposition of, all right, precise motion control, and we can apply it into propulsion systems, where if we took the valve and you apply a thruster to it, then you can make essentially satellite steering systems. Or you can start doing very large engines, and you can apply it to divert and attitude control systems, which make up the interceptor portion of a lot of the things prevalent here at this symposium. So that's kind of our heritage. Where we're starting to focus now is a lot more on the, all right, what are some of the horizontally looking technologies that we can add in? Oh, avionics is really interesting. Oh, what about inertial and navigation systems? So we can take all of those technologies and pool them together, and in intelligent ways in specific end markets, all of a sudden we provide a new interface, a new value proposition. So if we start to hear the warfighter, which prevalent to this conference, they're starting to say, I want more sooner. And it's really driving it that give me the 80% solution and 20% of the time, we'll work out some of the details. I need capability today. So Moog, we're trying to take all of the things that we understand really well, all of those little key bits of technologies, and say, all right, we hear you. We're going to put them together like this. That's going to get you close enough. All of a sudden, we can field a new operational capability in percentage of the time. So we're really starting to react in that manner. And that drives everything from how we think about our systems, what's the use case, what's the mission, how do I start to have that vocabulary so that we can engage in more intelligent conversations, and then also inward. What is the product development going to look like? Is everything going to be a bespoke little snowflake? Do I all of a sudden have to rationalize, okay, from a simplicity standpoint, here's a core technology, and I'll only be able to deviate slightly. But that core technology I can make in a third of the time. So that's kind of the balance that we'll always be trying to push and pull with. But at least from the things that we're hearing, that's really how we're trying to attack the problem.
No, that's awesome. From the aspect of the space and missile side of the house, is it fair to say that you are or you have been an integrator with other technology, or are you guys creating your own technology that you're offering as a capability to the government?
Traditionally, we've always been a integrator of our own technology. I think against the backdrop of we need more sooner, it's starting to look at the partnership model. So Moog, as we exist within kind of the aerospace and defense ecosystem, generally we would sell to a prime integrator, and we would do that alongside several other companies. Now, as soon as we're in kind of like the modern era of defense contracting, there's a whole bunch of new primes. There's a lot of venture capitalist money. So people are trying to figure out, how am I going to get to a fielded capability sooner? So we can go into a partnership model with several other companies and say, we can use our heritage. So like Moog, we are known for a lot of things, but quality first, and it works the first time every time. Fantastic. Some of the companies that have only been in business for 2 years, they don't have that. So it's some of those tradable assets that we can work with them so that we can get them further up the technology readiness level. And it allows us to be able to provide that new interface to the customer.
No, that makes sense. I love what you said regarding the government is no longer putting these requirements out and saying, hey, you have 2 years to do something. Mm-hmm. They want something in 4 or 5 months, sometimes even less.
Oh, yeah.
And they're looking for commercially available solutions that don't have to be developed. So it sounds like Moog is kind of lean forward from that perspective, and trying to get out in front of the requirements, trying to identify areas where there's going to be some requirements in the future, mm-hmm. and taking that, I guess, a slight risk of starting to develop something that is going to be coming.
Yeah, so I think that really it pulls the ecosystem in the direction of what is the risk appetite. And I think it's starting to reward people who have the appetite to deliver what's necessary. And it gets into the whole idea of, I can't sit back. I have to be able to be engaged in those conversations. I think it's an overused anecdote, but can I get a seat at the table? What are the capabilities? Can I influence those capabilities? Because the round robin effect of someone comes in and says, I need something. It takes a whole bunch of people a long time to define what they think they need, and it doesn't involve the industrial base in that conversation. We don't have what they need, and it already took them 18 months to almost get to the point where they can write it on paper. I think the collaboration between the government and the industrial base to define what's the art of the possible, so that's industry stating, here's where I am and where I think we can go, and the government being able to hear that and very quickly apply it to a mission, all of a sudden you can start to see things going from idea to fielded capability much faster, which is where I think the advent of the PAEs is really starting to take hold, because you don't have to sit back and wait anymore. So
no, you're right.
Fortune favors the bold scenario.
I'm glad you brought up the PAEs, which for some people that's the program or program acquisition executive, usually a 3-star or 2-star billets that the government set up. I think they've set up 8 of them, correct?
Correct.
And that is drastically streamlining the acquisition cycle to get capabilities, and it's really up to the 3-star or whoever's leading that PAE to say, hey, I'm going to take this risk and we're going to go with industry. And we're going to rely on industry, do things the right way, the quick way, and there's going to be some risk taken. I love what you said is sometimes a 75 or 80% capability is better than no capability.
Exactly.
Hey, we'll take some time and figure out the 20% later.
Mm-hmm.
In my notes here, I have multi-domain solutions are important, more important than ever now, and I would love for you to be able to tell us about how you're meeting that requirement and challenge. I know we've talked about it briefly, but if we can talk about it from a multi-domain aspect and the interconnection that is having to take place between not just industry, but the government, and then also as well as the defense industrial base, how everyone's having to work together?
So I think there's a few different levels to it. So at least from a Moog, how am I going to influence my product development to be able to deliver solutions into that ecosystem? The multi-domain aspect. So Moog, from a space and defense perspective, which is what I represent, we do everything from sea, land, air, and space. So by nature, we already have provided a significant amount of content into those solutions. So it's easy to say, look at us, we're multi-domain. It's being able to correctly stitch that together so that the warfighter can make more effective and faster decisions. So it's nothing that Moog is an active participant in. We don't have any C2 systems, but it's starting to understand how we are going to be able to deliver information into that at a much faster rate. So like in particular, one of the innovations that we've made over the last decade is we sell satellite buses, whether it's to other people or it's to direct priming. It's effectively, we're starting to take that integration of all the little widgets and bits that we've traditionally made to a new solution. And that's the direct tie-in into that multi-domain aspect, because we have a satellite bus that you can put a set of ears on, a set of eyes on, you can put a mouth on it, and integrate all those together to directly affect all of the new solutions that we're providing in the air domain, whether that's any sort of combatant aircraft all the way through upper tier missiles and hypersonics.
Yeah, anytime that someone mentions hypersonics, everyone's ears flash. Could you share a little bit about anything that you guys are currently working on from a hypersonic or glide vehicle? What you guys are working, who you're working with, if you can say it. If not, that's fine as well, because I know that's super applicable to part of this conference that we're at right now.
Simply put, we're working with people and doing things.
Good answer.
Joking aside, I think if you take a step back, hypersonics they're moving from the infantile stage of, hey, we were able to field a capability, to now we're starting to wrestle with the idea of how do you scale that? And it's not just making one bet. It's essentially how are you going to cover the full gambit of capabilities? So that's really interesting trade space for engineers in particular, but also Moog as a company, because we effectively make a lot of the content that populates the back end of a hypersonic weapon. The steering systems for the actuation, the control system that ties all of it together. How are you going to power it? Where are you going to move it? What does that look like? And also the propulsion systems. So now we're getting into Moog's value proposition with respect to hypersonics is we can essentially integrate the entire back end of the vehicle and deliver that. So if you're trying to set yourself up with the proposition of, all right, I have to take 10 pounds of potatoes and put them into a 5-pound sack, how am I going to do that? Moog represents one of those big solutions, because effectively I know where all of the trade space is going to lie within my products. So I can formulate a value proposition that says, hey, I can innovate everything at the control system level. That provides now the prime community, the end users, a full flight control system, as opposed to they're going to have to go, all right, you buy the actuator from that person and the power supply from that person and this thing from that person. And it gets more into that streamlining aspect. And it's not just the technology, it's the programmatics. It's all of the red tape that you would typically encounter having to have a gigantic subcontracting department. So all of a sudden, we're trying to provide that new interface just at the same time as we just discussed with the PAEs. So the government is streamlining, we're streamlining, so that hopefully we can meet in the middle and get to solution space much quicker.
Are you all seeing from I want to talk like kind of like an open architecture / vendor lock of course, when you're integrating with large primes, whoever it is, creating X vehicle, are you guys seeing industry do a better job of using an open architecture to kind of where you can plug and play different capabilities or different solutions? I just wanted to know and was curious about that.
So open system architecture, MOSA, WOSA, come up with the buzzword. I think the ideal behind it was it almost took too long to create and to adopt. But now in the future state that we're in, I think the real interest from the government is to understand, all right, I have had vendor lock. I want to understand the interface. That's the electrical, logical, mechanical. What are the environments it has to survive? I want to be able to take that documentation and be able to give it to somebody else to recreate the widget. Probably the first reflexive instinct that a lot of the industrial base had back when it was proposed was, oh no, someone wants to know my crown jewels. They want to know my software. They want to know my firmware. They want to know how I personally design electric motors. I think everybody has gotten over that hump. And we're saying, yeah, that if that's table stakes, open systems architecture, fantastic, sign me up, because that really puts it back, the onus onto the industrial base to say, all right, I, government, am now able to compete you. And my answer is go for it. Because Moog, at the end of the day, I think about 40 to 45% of our company is assembly and test technicians, basically hands-on labor force.
Oh, wow.
I have about 1 million square feet dedicated to that type of aspect within our space and defense group. Bring it on.
Yeah, because you can handle it.
Yeah, that's something that I would gladly compete on. And we do that in certain scenarios where we're brought on as a second source or a primary source. We generally are able to exist very well within the confines of that.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like you guys have just your history past is speaks for itself, and all the different capabilities that you guys are able to have. I know when we first set this up, Julia was going to be coming, or Julie, I think her name was Julia, was going to be coming on. I do want to talk about a little bit about the presence that you guys have here in Huntsville. I know you're probably up in the New York area, but maybe you can speak to a little bit about how long you guys have been here in the Huntsville area, and you guys are rebranding as well, as what I heard, and also tell us what kind of work you're doing here in Huntsville.
Oh, fantastic. So Moog has had a presence in Huntsville for about the last 20 years. And it was small, and it was more just an outlet to be able to have conversations with people. And I think our response to what we have seen growing within the Huntsville community is the fact that it is its own self-perpetuating machine. It's a fantastic place to be from a talent perspective, customers, end use cases. So what we've done in about the 2019 era, kind of pre-COVID, was we expanded the site. We grew from relatively small to, I think we have a space that is about 15,000 square feet now, but during the course of COVID, we're able to add about 50% square footage. Yeah. And recently, I think we originally tripled the workforce, and now we're looking at doubling within the next 18 months.
That's awesome.
So that's fantastic. It's like, congratulations. We hear you. We're trying to reflex to that desire. What we do in Huntsville, I think, is a part of that rebranding where we're going from more of like a resource center. We're trying to turn it into an operation. We can take contracts, we can do things. We're starting to have it be its own center of excellence for systems engineering, and which is a fantastic buzzword, but to deconstruct it just a bit, that really ends up being the showcase of Moog's full capability at that higher system level, right at the epicenter of where it's really desired. So for us, part of the major piece of the rebranding is centered on a hardware in the loop. So to focus on hypersonics for just a second, that hardware in the loop ends up being more than just a bunch of little circuit cards talking to each other, which is a necessary item. For us, I make big things that move things. I want to see something fully loaded. So for right now, we have the back end of a hypersonic vehicle, and we can fully load that and say, all right, now I can assess the latency of your system. I can fully assess the bandwidth, or basically the capability of your system, which is something that is very rarely ever to be fully exercised until you go flight test it. But the flight test ends up being unbearably expensive. So how am I going to assess my true capability? So what we're trying to do is deconstruct the envelope requirements on requirements on requirements and say, all right, let's go do it. Let's go test there. And then I can run another one and another one. And I can do that in a fashion that really buys down a lot of the risk within these systems. So we're hoping that that capability is really offered to the greater Huntsville and the DOW market so that we're a part of the solution space. How am I going to de-risk hypersonic flight? Because right now, hypersonics 10 years ago is not hypersonics 10 years from now. Yeah. So how are we going to proliferate? What is that scaling going to look like? who's going to have the right solution. So it's not just, I will only test Moog hardware. It's we are bringing a new capability to the local ecosystem and to the warfighter so that we can get to that solution space faster.
That's awesome. And I guess one of the last topics with all of the interesting conflicts that are taking place across the world right now has, I think everyone here knows that has directly impacted the defense industrial base. Department of War has put some stringent requirements out. They need capabilities, XYZ. How is that affecting you guys, and how are you responding?
So for us, I think we're rising to the challenge. Yeah, I mean, it's within our nature. So Moog as a company, we want to turn war fighters into war veterans. So the best way that we can accomplish that is having a very adaptable workforce that can scale as necessary. So for us, it's all on the manufacturing side. So we're looking at increasing our split shift operations. We can effectively almost 2x our capacity without really blinking. That's also, we are blinking several times on adding a lot of square footage right now. I mean, we're going through a significant amount of mission readiness preparation so that we can be there to fulfill the need. So I think, simply put, a lot of the MAC 12 is looking to X4, X6, some amount of ungodly production. And we're sitting here raising our hands as high as you can see, saying, we're ready.
Yeah, we're here. We're ready. We've invested already, have the capabilities. I like what you said also is it's not just what you guys have created is not just for you guys. Is you guys, it sounds like, are looking for those partnerships to say, hey, let's come in and solve this problem together. We have a facility here, either a test facility, a high bay, whatever it is. Let's work together to solve this problem because we're a team at the end of the day.
Yes.
And everything has to be done through the team, through companies, inside of your company. And no, this has been a great conversation. I have to put a little plug in here. Peyton always asks me to ask a couple of rapid fire questions to make it more personal. And one of the questions he wanted me to ask you was, what is one of your favorite sci-fi films?
Oh, it's 100% Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back.
Thank you. Confirmed.
We're all nerds here. I'm a big nerd. But and then what's one of the best or one of the coolest places you've had to visit with work?
Ooh.
On the spot too.
Yeah. So I think I've seen 3 of the existing shuttles. So I think those have been some of the most interesting. I'll actually, for the hometown crowd, back when I was just a little engineer, just graduated, I had traveled to Huntsville for a battery show and our plane got delayed. So we ended up saying, oh, let's go to the museum
Space
here.
and Rocket Center.
Yeah. And all of a sudden some docent walks up and he's like, oh, I used to be the chief engineer on this program X many years ago. And he's like, who do you work for? I said, Moog. And he personally gave me a tour of everything that my company had touched over the years. It's like the shuttle actuation system, all the propulsion equipment. So that ends up, it's a core memory I will bring forever. And people always ask, like, why are you in the space industry? And I'm like, literally touches places you never thought you would go. So,
Saturn V or SLS?
Saturn V.
Yeah, we got to, because it's done more. The SLS will probably overtake the Saturn V at some point, but it doesn't have the flights yet.
No, it doesn't. And there's nothing beats seeing the exploded Saturn V. It's something that my kids can directly connect with. It's a fantastic piece of technology, but also a work of art.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Well, Greg, really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. It was awesome learning about who you work for and the role that you guys are in. And we wish you phenomenal success. I know it's going to probably be busy. There's a lot of requirements out there that you guys are probably tracking towards and working on. So good luck, and would love to maybe get over to the new facility at some point.
Oh,
fantastic. That you guys are rebranding. That's awesome. And yeah, any final thoughts for the listeners?
No, I appreciate the audience and the role that you guys are playing. This is fantastic, and it gets back to the whole we're all in this together. Yeah, there's only one way up.
And this is the best way for people to find out what we do. Is to sit down and just have a good conversation. But with that, we'll close it out. Thank you for listening. Perfect.